with the opinion of counsel and of analysts that the governor has exceeded his legal authority with the executive order, and there's pending litigation. And so how we proceed with this, a very major part of our budget, there is risk here. We just need to be aware of that.
And unrelated to this point that you're on now, I don't know if Senator Panovitz following up, then I defer. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if we could ask the finance the administration to, in light of this potential legal threat to the cap-and-trade spending, what is the contingency plan in case that judgment goes against the administration and our ability to assess this fee? What alternatives do you think are going to be available to us if we spend this money?
I would say that we have a very strong, high confidence level that the expenditures here are consistent with the legal requirements, that they all result in emission reductions. And so what we've done is we've structured our cap-and-trade expenditure plan in a manner that is legally consistent with the requirements, and that all expenditures need to result in emission reductions. And so that's kind of been our thinking on the expenditures, is to make sure that they are the most legally defensible.
Right, and I'm not an expert on litigation, but I thought that part of the challenge is the ability, the authority of the administration to actually assess this fee or tax, or however you're going to interpret it. So it's not really necessarily just about how you spend the money, but whether or not we have exceeded our authorization in assessing that fee or tax, how you define it. Is that also part of the litigation?
My understanding is that is part of the litigation. I'm probably not the most qualified to talk about the legal nuances of it. But
my question is, does the administration have a contingency plan in case we were to lose that litigation, even though you have a high confidence level, and I appreciate that? Is there a contingency plan that if we spend this money, then what do we do if we were to lose that case?
Rivers reduces greenhouse gas emissions.
What I would say is that this, at this point in time, the cap-and-trade has collected more revenues than it's actually allocated. And so over time, as we appropriate money, there will be the revenues will be coming in. We're tracking it to the point where we're not going to be spending more than we're taking in.
Right, but how much money is at risk to date? If you allowed this spending to go forward, how much money now is at risk were we to lose that case? I understand your point, which is that we're not spending at all. But how much have we spent, and how much, if you add on to what we're proposing?
At this point, we've collected a total of $4 billion of revenue, of auction revenue, and I believe that the appropriations are less than $1 billion.
Do you think we've spent $1 billion to date?
I want to say appropriate would be a little bit more accurate.
You think we've appropriated $1 billion to date?
It's in
cap-and-trade fee, tax, and that would be then, if you went along with the administration's plan, we'd be appropriating another $3 billion more, so we would have $4 billion at risk should a judgment come down within the next year that said we had to pay it back.
This is $4 billion to date. Remember, we're also projecting another $2 billion for the budget year of auction revenues.
Right, but I'm talking about what we have spent if we were required to pay it back. So it sounds like you're saying it's about $4 billion through the end of this next fiscal year that we would have at risk. Is that correct?
I don't know if I would characterize it at risk, but I understand your point.
Very good, thank you.
This is what we're talking about here. Senator Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to reiterate the gist of the council opinion and then have a question. One, the board, neither the governor nor the board have the authority to establish greenhouse gas emission limit below the 1990 level that would be applicable beyond 2020. And the cap-and-trade program cannot be applied beyond December 31st, 2020. and further that the CARB may not increase the cost of implementation fee to achieve this emission levels below the 1990 level applicable after 2020. That was kind of the gist of it. Now, I'm wondering now how much state revenues were generated in the most recent auction. I guess that was May 8th, and then a follow-up question about a recent newspaper report. Was it a pretty good auction?
We don't have the results of the May auction yet. That's coming later this week. The most recent auction results that we do have was from February, and it was $516 million.
Well, the Bee just reported a huge increase in the between auction sales, between the two auctions, the last two and the most current one. 71 million tons of allowances on the secondary market that were below the official price. Now, that could be instructive. The major factor, or I would say the only factor that may have changed in circumstances, would be uncertainty over the program's legality and future. Is that a concern of the diminished price?
The point of the cap and trade auctions, of cap and trade, isn't necessarily to generate revenue. It's to send a market signal to reduce GHG emissions.
No, I know, but
And so,
what people bid is a product of their confidence in where this whole thing is going to go. What I'm trying to establish is that a vote of no confidence.
well, based on the administration's legal analysis, we do believe that the Air Board has the legal authority to continue cap and trade beyond 2020.
I know
that there's a lot of discussions about what that authority is, and so we are more than happy to work with the legislature to clarify what that authority is.
Well, that really wasn't the crux of my question. Something happened in the market between the two lettings that softened. My question is, could that be a product of someone's lack of confidence in where this greenhouse gas emissions cap and trade is going to go?
Senator Nielsen, I think it's fair to say that there are a lot of different factors that could potentially affect sort of the behavior of the market and different market prices. Certainly one of them could be, I think, potential legal challenges and expectations about what would happen to the program in the future. Could also be just related to, again, the long-term nature of the program, expectations about sort of how stringent the cap is going to be in the long term could influence purchasing decisions now. So there are a variety of factors that could impact sort of the prices of allowances, particularly on the secondary market, some of which could be related to some of the legal uncertainty that you're talking about.
Understood. I confess I'm no fan of this, but on the other hand, it's a very big deal, and it's very complicated. And we're building a lot of assumptions and a lot of constituencies that are going to be dependent for a long time on these funds. It's a huge piggy bank. And some folks are getting left out, like the dairy digesters, and I don't know why they are getting left out. I'd like that answered here today, too. But that said, I think I've raised my point.